Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com.
What is one to do if one accidentally placed a drink into his mouth without saying a bracha, and has remembered prior to swallowing the drink? So in a previous halacha we discussed the case regarding food and the options available. You can either spit out the food, put the food in the side of your mouth and say the bracha, or just swallow it without a bracha. And the conclusion by food was that if you're able to spit it out and it will not become repulsive, then do so and say the bracha and then put it back in your mouth. But if it will become repulsive, then you should go ahead and put it on the side of your mouth and say the blessing while it is in your mouth. However, when it comes to a drink, to liquids, the halachic discussion and final ruling is very different than that by foods. It all begins with the Gemara in Maseches Brachos 50b, which states, Amar Rav Yehuda, the Rav Yehuda says, if one placed food in his mouth without a blessing, Tani Chada Barlon, one Tana says you should swallow it, another Tana says you should spit it out, another Tana says put it to the side of your mouth. And the Gemara establishes the case, the first case, of swallowing to be referring to liquids. In contrast to solids, to which we rule either spit it out and say the blessing, or say the blessing on the side of your mouth, by liquids the Gemara says you should swallow the liquid. Meaning you don't spit it out and you swallow it without saying a bracha. And the question is asked, why? Why shouldn't you spit it out and simply say a blessing? Why should you be allowed to swallow the liquid without a bracha? So the Mefarshim explain that once the liquid has entered into one's mouth, it loses its status of food. So spitting it out would make it be undrinkable, and it's no longer relevant to say a bracha on it anymore. So it seems like a very simple ruling from the Gemara: swallow the liquid and no blessing. However, we find in the Gemara Yerushalmi a contradiction to this ruling. The Yerushalmi in Brachos 6.1 writes that if you by mistake place liquid in your mouth without saying a blessing, you should spit it out, the exact opposite of our Gemara in Brachos and Bavli. So the Babylonian Talmud says swallow, and the Jerusalem Talmud says to spit it out. What do? What's the final halacha? So we find amongst the Rishonim and the Poskim three approaches. The first approach is to swallow it, like the Gemara in Bavli, and no blessing is recited. This is the opinion of the Mechaber in Shulchanaruch, chapter 172, halacha 1, which follows the first opinion in the Torah, the Rishonim, Rabbeinu Hananel, and a possible understanding of the Rambam. The second approach is, indeed, as the Gemara in Bavli says, swallow the liquid, but right after you're done, say the blessing afterwards. Yes, even though you already drank it, you'll say the blessing Shakol Nia B'Dvarei after you swallow. So is the ruling of the Ramah, the Darkei Moshe, a second opinion in the Torah, the Rosh, the Rashba, and another way of interpreting the Rambam. The Taz in the Shulchan Aruch explains that the reason for this is, although in general we rule you can't say a bracha if you already swallowed, since here you remembered prior to the swallowing, one is to say a bracha afterwards. And now we have a third approach. The third approach makes peace between the two Talmuds, the Jerusalem and Babylonian Talmud, saying they're both referring to different cases. The Babylonian Talmud refers to a case that you have no more liquid left and you would really like a drink and you already put it in your mouth. In that case, swallow and no blessing is said. The Jerusalem Talmud refers to a case you have a whole bottle in front of you. So you took a little bit without a blessing. Don't swallow it, spit it out, get rid of it. And drink the rest with a bracha beforehand. So is the interpretation of the Ravid, recorded in the Magen Avram and other Achrein. Practically, how do we rule? Swallow and don't say a bracha, swallow and say a bracha, or spit out unless you have no more liquid left and you need this liquid. So the final ruling follows the latter opinion, the third approach, as it is the only approach that avoids the disputes of a bracha levatala. And therefore, halacha l'maisa, this is the ruling. If you put liquid into your mouth, you took a drink, you forgot to say a bracha, you remembered prior to swallowing, then if you have more liquid available, spit it out. Don't swallow it without saying a blessing. If you don't have more liquid available and you would really like to drink this, then think the blessing in your mind, hear her, and then swallow it, and do not say a blessing afterwards. In all cases, if you drank a revius, an after blessing is to be said of Beri Nefashis. So we're now going to summarize the two laws of both food and liquid together. You place food in your mouth, a salad, without saying a blessing. And you remembered prior to swallowing, if the food will be repulsive once it's spat out, then put it to the side of your mouth and say a bracha. If it will not become repulsive, then spit it out and say the bracha. However, by liquids, if you put a liquid in your mouth and forgot to say a bracha and remember prior to swallowing, spit out the liquid, unless you have no more liquid available and you really need this drink, in which case think the blessing in your mouth and swallow.
Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at Shulchanaruchharav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page. Also, check out our online courses and many sefarim available for purchase that will both enhance your Torah knowledge and help support our work.